JC never lets you screw. You ain't that good a coxman. You never even screwed Charlene Duggs all that time you went with her.
Of course I didn't. You know why? Because you had the pickup all time Saturday night. That's why. Nobody could have screwed the time I had
I
left.
could have screwed her in 5 minutes. I wouldn't even need no pickup.
The Last Picture Show was a film that's written and directed by Peter Bogdonavich that came out in 1971. So The Last Picture Show is a $50 Patreon request that comes from Mitchie D. I just did one the other day for The Long Goodbye. I told you I'm a bit backed up on Mitchie's reviews. But anyway, The Last Picture Show is a film that, as I mentioned, is written and directed by Peter Bogdonavich, who unfortunately recently passed away back in January. And it's always difficult when an influential artist leaves us. It's even more depressing when someone like me has never seen any of his films. The Last Picture Show is my very first Peter Bogdanovich film. And I'm going to be honest, the first time that I watched this film, I liked it, but I didn't really think it was that great. But upon rewatch, I now do think that it is that great. And I think it's just one of those clear cases to where, as opposed to your first watch, you're not really as fixated on where the story's going to head. You're not questioning certain filmmaking decisions that are happening throughout the film. And overall, you can just feel a lot more at ease and just take in the film for what it is. And you can now observe and pick up on a lot more of those delicate details that are woven throughout the film. I mean, not every film's going to get better on a rewatch. There's been plenty of films that actually got worse on rewatch. But The Last Picture Show is definitely a film that I feel like was elevated through a rewatch. And it's because I found The Last Picture Show to be such a down-to-earth and honest film that has a more quiet and subtle filmmaking approach. And it's through this film's subtle approach to directing, through its subtle approach to writing, and also just the way that this film is able to really capture its North Texas setting that really makes it feel genuine and authentic. And I mentioned that this film was down-to-earth and honest, and that's not only because of its aesthetic value and the way it kind of establishes its atmosphere and setting, but it's mostly because of the way that this film goes about exploring its themes. Because this film to me felt incredibly human and therefore explores a lot of human themes that have to do with the inevitability of change, the complexity of love and relationships, the complexity of sexuality. And I feel like the incredibly small town setting was the perfect avenue to explore these themes because in a small town, social interaction is inevitable. And not only is it inevitable, but the kind of cause and effect in terms of how you treat others in this town, goes a long way because of obviously word of mouth. And there is legitimately a very small amount of people in this small town. So, when it comes to, again, themes of love and relationships, when you feel like, you have lost the one, you feel like that's it. You not only feel that your options are limited in terms of your career paths, but also extremely limited when it comes to who you're going to share your life with. And I did mention that there's a theme of sexuality in this film, and it's a pretty central theme. I mean, there's a lot of sexuality in this film, more than I expected. And, but what's really interesting about the sexuality in this film is that I can't remember a single sex scene in this film or any depiction of sexuality in this film that felt truly romantic. And it's because all the central characters in this film are all seeking love and sex, but they're kind of seeking them for different reasons. The main character in this film named Sonny, who's played by Timothy Bottoms, his character is seeking love in a way, but it's mostly sex. He's one of those people who, mistake lust for love, and which is a common thing. And he ends up having a relationship with an older woman in this film, which is why I said it explores relationships in this kind of taboo way. And that was, to me, the most compelling dynamic of this film. Cloris Leachman was the actress that plays the older woman in that relationship, and I thought she was stunning. Not only visually is she stunning, but her performance was fantastic. Especially the amount of emotion that she has to give in basically the last scene of this film was just breathtaking and also tragic as hell. Sybil Shepherd also plays one of the main characters in this film that goes by the name of JC. And most people know her from Taxi Driver, and her character was so aggravating. Because her character is somebody that, in my opinion, at first, really had good intentions for love. She's somebody that was kind of trying to stick to her guns and be a genuine human being, but she's unfortunately kind of misled by her mother, that's played by Ellen Burstyn, who, by the way, another phenomenal actress. And Ellen Burstyn's character essentially persuades her own daughter to kind of devalue her own virginity and love in general. She basically convinces her to kind of wield her sex appeal as this economical tool. But I love that later on in the film, you learn more about Ellen Burstyn's character, and it starts to make more sense as to why she has this bitter and practical attitude towards these things. And it was one of those revelations in the film that happens in the third act that, you know, at the same time is touching, but also tragic and disappointing. But anyway, Sybil Shepherd's character is kind of led on the similar path that her mother took, and that's when her character becomes just unbearable at times. There's this one particular scene that involves her going to this kind of private elite pool party, and that's a scene that I really liked for a number of reasons. One of them being the fact that I just think it's a really bold and brave depiction of what seems to be an elite gathering, while at the same time being unafraid to depict these more or less perverse traditions that they do. But I also really loved it because, to me, that was the defining moment for Sybil Shepherd's character. That was a moment where symbolically she's also putting her old, more genuine self behind and is now making a strong and soulless type of decision to where, you know, she's now kind of just focused on who she can manipulate to get to the top. And basically, after that point throughout the film, she's incredibly cold and sociopathic. I think it's a excellent character in terms of a writing perspective, and she embodied it really well. But, you know, just to see it unfold on screen can be pretty frustrating. And Jeff Bridges' character, first of all, this is the youngest I've ever seen Jeff Bridges. I could be wrong, but I think this was like his breakout role. This was the role that really changed Jeff Bridges' career. People really started to recognize him as a Hollywood star. But his character I found pretty genuine in terms of his pursuit for love and sex. You know, he's somebody that I feel like genuinely wanted to have a relationship. He's somebody that genuinely wanted to find a partner that he can be with for a lifetime. And unfortunately, his time, energy, and love was invested in the incorrect person. And there's another character in this film named Sam, who's played by Ben Johnson, that I really, really liked. Sam is a character that, again, feels incredibly genuine. This is a character that has been in this town for pretty much his entire life. And, you know, the entire functionality and the health of the town is dependent on him because he owns the majority of the businesses that are there. And he's a very inviting and welcoming person. There's a monologue type scene that occurs at a lake that I thought was brilliant acting and brilliant writing all around. Again, very human type of dialogue, you know, very wise coming from this character. And again, that scene kind of sets up something that is revealed later on in the third act of the film and makes that reveal even more compelling than it already was. And there's also this creative use of silence throughout this film. Throughout this film, it's kind of used for different reasons, but most of the time it's supposed to, at least in my opinion, express a certain intensity of the current situation. But yeah, on rewatch, I got so much more out of it. I really gained a new appreciation for this film. So I'm going to give The Last Picture Show a solid 8 out of 10.
Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart?
Yeah, this is a wonderful film that I highly recommend to everybody. But either way, I hope that you guys enjoy it. If you have seen it already, comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the film. I always love reading everybody's comments. And that's all I got to say about The Last Picture Show. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about the films, give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.